I rise to move third reading of Bill 13, the Real Property Governance Act. Madam Speaker, this legislation fulfills a promise we have made to cut red tape and to save taxpayer dollars. The RPG Act strengthens property governance across the GOA as well as its agencies, boards and commissions. The purpose here is to implement a centralized approach to government property management with the goal of making the most efficient use of our resources. The Act creates a centralized inventory of land owned by government, bringing improved awareness and transparency to our property portfolio, which also requires departments and consolidated entities to offer surplus property to infrastructure prior to disposal. This offer will be at net book value, so that means transfers will occur at asset value, which is recorded on the Government of Alberta's balance sheet. No money changes hands for departments, but consolidated entities will receive a cash payment at book value for property transferred to the GOA. To be clear, this legislation does not alter decision-making authority. Consolidated entities will continue to make independent decisions about their properties. Land would only be offered back to infrastructure if it was no longer needed for programming use. Madam Speaker, by modernizing and centralizing property transactions in one ministry, we can better support priority investments across government, reduce red tape, increase transparency, and ultimately save taxpayer money. Madam Chair, or Madam Speaker, in terms of next step, we will further refine how property management is done across our government. Part of this process includes the implementation of a centralized ownership model. On a go-forward basis, property will be leased instead of transferring ownership to government organizations for program delivery. Doing business better for less money, that is what this legislation and related next steps are all about. Madam Speaker, at this point, I want to address a couple of the concerns the opposition expressed during debate. First, infrastructure already has the authority to buy and sell property on behalf of the government. That's not a new concept. Additionally, there are policies around how sales occur. The department is required to sell land through public offerings using a realtor or entities listed in Schedule 11 of the Government Organization Act. This is an open and transparent public process. Furthermore, Bill 13 requires a repurposing assessment prior to sale, which circulates all surplus land, government land and property, to all consolidated entities to assess possible alternate uses. Land that is not required for other government programs will then be either held for strategic purposes, sold under the acquisition, disposal and surplus property policy, or returned to an ABC for disposal. Madam Speaker, another thing that I've heard during debate here is the opposition's belief that somehow Bill 13 circumvents local decision-making around school boards, and nothing could be further from the truth. So let me be clear, this bill does not legislate property away from public school boards, nor does it change the current processes where surplus land is concerned. School boards continue to retain decision-making authority over property assets. The current requirement has school boards receiving approval on the sale of land from education. Now that part, that remains intact. With the Minister of Education's approval, an offer to transfer will now be submitted to infrastructure, where it will be evaluated for government needs. This effectively provides the GOA with a right of first refusal on lands before being sold. Madam Speaker, Bill 13 facilitates an inventory system that is viable and transparent to the public. Furthermore, a single repurposing and disposal assessment will reduce redundancies and improve efficiencies. So, Madam Speaker, the Real Property Governance Act will first centralize property inventory under one umbrella, which will allow us to make decisions quickly and strategically. And second, the offer to transfer surplus property back to government allows for better resourcing of priority projects. And finally, as a policy initiative, we will continue to modernize our governance process by leasing on a go-forward basis property to consolidated entities rather than conduct nominal sale asset transfers. The Real Property Governance Act is a common sense step forward in how government sells and manages property, and I encourage all members to support this bill. And with that, I move third reading. Thank you, Madam Speaker.